Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode, we hope, of Hazmat 101 Consultants HazChat. I'm your co host, Bob Koshignano, and my cohort in crime, Mr. Derek Shaman. Derek, hello, hello.
Hello. Hello. Hope everyone's doing well out there today.
Yes, indeed. This is our busy season. Between gigs around the country, it's like conference city. Um, we had the Hazmat Symposium in January here in Daytona, Florida. Uh, Mike and I went and did a gig out in Oklahoma. Just got back from the Massachusetts Hazmat Conference. Got Michigan Hazmat Conference coming up. Then Baltimore.
Oh, back to Oklahoma before that.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Michigan, Oklahoma, then Baltimore. Yep. You're right. So we have so many things going on. We can't keep them straight. But we have calendars.
We like Oklahoma so much, we go twice.
We go twice a year. Absolutely. Good stuff. So speaking of conferences, let's talk just for a few seconds, a few minutes maybe, on the Massachusetts. As we literally just got back from there yesterday, which will be March 28th for those that are listening now into the April month. And this was a new venue for them. They moved it from Plymouth to Foxborough, which is where the New England Patriots play. I'm not a big football guy. Most people know I'm a baseball guy, and they know which team, but I don't want to say anything right now because I might offend those in the area to which I was just in. But so they went to this new venue, which was Foxborough Stadium, Gillette Stadium, I'm sorry, in Foxborough, where the New England Patriots play. So it was kind of a cool venue. They took great care of us. I mean, I got to give big props to the people that were running it, Jen and Travis Fabello. They did a fantastic job, and I'm sure they had, a few other people helping them, but they ran literally the football, no pun intended, with this event and did an outstanding job. So there's the entrance that we went into, and then we had like the concourse level was where the classes were. So this was like one main room area of a concourse. So you're in a stadium or what have you, in that main concourse area. That's where everything was set up, and then there were some breakout rooms in other places. So it really was pretty cool, and they had a lot of. I mean, here's where the vendors were set up in that concourse area I was talking about. And then of course, we did some of our classes there. So here's one we did. We got This Is Your Department really ready. And from the comments I got afterwards, they're like, yeah, no, we're not. Thanks for some of the tips to help with that. So always happy to share some information, a nugget or two, and maybe pick up some from other people. And then there was this cool little game that our good friends Bobby and Mike, the Hazmat guys, put on. It's called what is it? Take out, something like that. I can't see the name of it, but it's basically they had a scientist friend of theirs, Dr. Norman, make up a whole bunch of questions, and it was a game show. And yeah, it was really cool. So you logged in and answered these questions, and it went on for about 45 minutes, and I think the winner won a bottle of whiskey. I know, weird.
Now, this is something that the participants, they were able to use their mobile devices to answer questions.
Yep.
Almost like a buzzer.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was almost like a hazmat trivia kind of thing.
So very interactive and engaging for the students.
Oh, yes, it was. It was
for
indeed.
attendees.
It was, and it was during a happy hour section of the. What was that? That was Wednesday night. So that was kind of cool. So people had a few drinks. They got to socialize, which is, it's about networking. We always talk about networking. And yeah, so there you go. So that was kind of cool. That was the whole shtick of the conference, which was a couple days. So it was rainy, cold. I had to find that coat buried in the bowels of my closet to bring up there from Florida, but It was a good time had all. And again, big props to Jen and Travis and all those involved. They did a great job. So, but
We've had our own
now
cold weather down here. I think yesterday it was 68 degrees when I woke up, so pretty
dude,
frigid. Frigid.
I went out to play golf this morning, and I was like, holy shit, it's cold. It's cold. I need to put something on. So, anyway, all right. So recently there was a bridge collapse, which everybody's heard about in Baltimore, and I talked to one of our good friends, Kevin Ryan, who's also a contributing editor to HazMat HQ Digital Magazine, which we'll talk about in a little while. And he said, really, the city of Baltimore, after the initial response, and their boats looking for survivors in the water and things like that, really everything was pretty much just left up with Coast Guard, and now it's a crime scene, right? So they had to, kind of hang back a little bit and go from there. So, real quickly, this is the big bridge collapse we're talking about. So, with that being said, all these things that happen, it just, I don't know. We Derek and I start talking about a little bit, and this is a Coast Guard thing. I think we pretty much all agree. This is a federal thing. This is beyond us. This is not something we're going to be dealing with much, other than, like I said, that initial first. As a matter of fact, the dispatch for this was people in the water. I think that was how the initial call came in, and then it was 13 people in the water, and then it was part of the bridge collapse. And then the battalion chief showed up on scene after already calling for special equipment and everything. He got on scene and saw, just how enormous this was, and said, I think his words were something like, just send everybody. Was literally his words. And
I believe he said complete or total collapse of the bridge, and he started to say send, and pretty much realized at that point, whatever we've got, we need right now.
Yeah, send it all. So again, I think the first 24 hours of this was, from fire department standpoint, basically a search and rescue for victims. And then after that, survivors. And then after that, then it went into recovery mode, which now you're getting into a whole different ball game. Feds and FBI and NTSB and Coast Guard. And it's, if you don't practice multi-jurisdictional drills, because this is one, we unfortunately had to deal with that when we had the Pulse incident here in Orlando. And you need to really connect with those partners, and everybody learn how to play in the sandbox together, because it's not a matter of if, it's just when something's going to happen. You always hear the old saying, well, I never thought it would happen here. Yeah, well, neither did we. So, so this is just one picture. And then here's another one showing the bridge on top of some of the containers. Now, some of the containers, and you'll see where we're going with this in a second, carried hazardous materials. The containers. So they said there was a breach of the containers carrying hazardous materials. But what we're finding out was it was the containers within the containers, let's say, holding those said materials were not breached, right, Derek?
Right, and that's where one of the little soapboxes I get on is our improper use sometimes of salvage and overpack in hazmat.
Yep.
Essentially, these shipping containers, are overpack. Overpack is not designed for the hazardous material itself. It's just designed to contain whatever containers there are to make it easier to stack, transport, move, provide additional protection. But inside these shipping containers, those hazardous materials are still contained within whatever media they're normally in, whether it's in drums and different types of packaging, all those things. So a breach of these shipping containers does not mean that there has been a leak or release of hazardous materials unless those individual packages inside have actually breached. not knowing exactly what the materials are there. Just a quick rundown from what NTSB has for us. There's a total of 4,700 containers on this ship.
Ooh,
Out of those, 56 containers contain hazardous materials of some form or fashion. So corrosives, flammables, some class eights, things like lithium ion batteries. Um, uh, of those containers, right there on the bow, you can see where the bridge came down. I believe that they've got 14 containers that are under the bow there that have been breached, and I believe up to so far, last I heard was two containers confirmed in the water. It sounds like those are mostly perfumes and soaps. So, in the grand scheme of things, a better case scenario than some of the other things that they could have
yeah.
had, but out of those 56 containers that contain hazardous materials, we're talking about 764 tons of hazmat on that
Wow.
truck or on that ship, not counting the 1.5 million gallons of fuel and lubricant that the ship itself has. So, fortunately, it looks like there's no breach of anything with the ship itself. There has been a report of a sheen on the water. Um, but that could also be from the vehicles that fell from the bridge that could be contributing to the sheen. You have gasoline and petroleum products coming out of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you
I
can see a semi going into the water,
mhm.
so I have no doubts the saddle tanks were involved.
Yeah, so you have those things there. Obviously, like the if the perfumes or anything like that did breach, or the soaps, those things could all leave some sort of a sheen type effect there. Um, I believe that they've deployed 2,400 feet of boom so far to contain
Wow.
that sheen and, proactively getting out there. And that's where we really look at with those things with hazmat is we have to assume that something is going to release. So having those
Right.
booms put in place, whether it's in response to the sheen or just, hey, we've had an incident, let's not try to chase this release. Let's get ahead of the release and block it. You got the Coast Guard out there, they've got the EPA out there, Army Corps of Engineers, a ton of resources there. And that's where it raises the question for municipal teams, kind of what do we do and where do we go? Like Bob said, that first 24 hours is kind of critical because that's when it's your show in your
Yep.
backyard. You're trying to figure out what you have. Search and rescue obviously being the priority, but reaching out to the port, to the vessel itself to find out what products are on here, what concerns may we have, so that you can relay that information, so that when Coast Guard and everyone else is coming out, they've already got it. I'm sure that they have that information. Uh, that their network provides a ton of that, but for us in the municipal side to at least have an idea of what may be there, because really that drives what support we may be asked for. While we may not be the lead on any of these types of events, we may still be called on for support. What do
Yep.
we have available on hand that we can provide as far as equipment, um, staging areas for when these containers start becoming offloaded? If anything is found to be breached, is that going to be something that's going to be coordinated with the local community? And, more than anything, it's going to be answering questions, because I'm sure that there's going to be people who are calling in to
Oh yeah.
find out, is my water safe to drink? Is this okay? Is the fish that we're eating out of the harbor safe?
Right.
So a lot of those questions, when people don't have an answer, they come to the fire department.
Yeah. And we were talking just before we started recording, and this was a major hub, a major shipping area. And now all these items that were being moved to different parts of the country or around or going to other countries for that matter, um, now have to find different routes. So now some of these things are going to end up in your backyard or coming through your towns or what have you, more so than normal.
Yeah, so you're gonna have, I know this morning they were already talking about, there's a vessel that's been redirected from Baltimore to Jacksonville, Florida,
Mhm.
to the port there. I know that obviously New Jersey will be taking a lot from this location. So all along the eastern seaboard, there's going to be an increase in shipments coming in, which also relates to more stuff being offloaded from these vessels now hitting the road and rail.
Yeah.
from different locations than where they normally were, which is going to increase the potential for incidents in communities as the amount of hazardous materials being transported is increasing, and routes that maybe had a lower level or maybe at one point had no real significant hazardous materials transportation may be looking at that.
Right.
One of the big things I was looking to see what alternatives they have to I-695. So it looks like the two main alternatives they have for arteries are I-95 and I-895, both
Which
of
are
which,
already busy.
yeah, and both of which pass through tunnels at different points. So knowing from the hazmat world, tunnels have restrictions on what can be brought through them as far
So
as
so wait, wait.
hazardous goods.
So wait. You think they're gonna release the restrictions for hazmat to go through tunnels? I mean, they'd almost have to, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Not as far
So,
as we
what
know,
you're gonna be
right?
looking at, yeah, you're gonna be looking at more hazardous materials going on to secondary arteries,
Yeah.
going through surface roads, going through commercial areas that maybe, have tighter traffic situations, and there's different restrictions with things too with height when you start talking height and
Yeah.
width. So those bridges or those tunnels have height and width restrictions. So even if it's not the hazmats that are getting moved to the other roadways, a lot of traffic in general is being moved to other areas, which now increases the potential for transportation accidents.
Oh yeah. And I
Whether it's
can
an
tell you,
increase of goods or an increase in traffic, both of those increase the potential for an incident.
the bridges in the Northeast, and I'm not talking the modern day bridges. I'm talking the old bridges that are still around. They they are not at a sufficient height for some of these vehicles to come through there. You can barely get the top of a maybe pickup truck with a 6-inch lift through some of these things. So drivers beware.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and hazmat teams be, you know, start evaluating, talk to your local Department of Transportation, the way stations, all those things coming through. Find out, are you seeing different types of products that are now coming through your jurisdiction that previously weren't because they weren't coming to your port, or there's just an increase in it. Getting ahead of it and preparing for it and asking, is our department ready?
There you go. That's it.
Shameless plug.
Well,
Shameless plug.
well, well played. Well played. And that's true because unfortunately, um, most departments aren't ready, and we talked about this in that we've got this is your department ready class, another shameless plug, um, that people wait till 3 a.m. when something happens to go, oh yeah, we don't have a plan. 3 a.m. is not the time to try to figure shit out. You need to figure it out at 3
Mhm.
p.m. Months or years before. So
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
and a shifting of your resources too, as these increases of transport of hazardous materials go into communities that maybe weren't seeing them before. Where is their closest hazmat resource?
ah,
Um, and
yep,
are they aware of how to reach out to them? Do they have any capabilities on their own end? This is going to affect so much, obviously, in supply chain in general, but for hazardous materials, there's going to be an impact as far as just the changes in routes and traffic, whether it's actual goods that went in and out of the harbor or not. It's going to be changes of traffic with the loss of that critical artery of I-695 and everything being kind of reallocated and redistributed to accommodate for that loss.
yeah, and uh, we know of a department that just asked another department who is their hazmat team the capabilities for the use of booms or spill in a lake, and the hazmat team department has limited capability because you know that's not their job, that's not their role. They have some booms that can stop maybe a few 100 feet at the most of something, or to put some booms in a drainage system or what have you. they relied on what they call streets and drainage department to get all the extra pads, booms, absorbent, what have you. So don't assume, if you're a department that doesn't hazmat team, you're just ops level. Don't assume that the hazmat team you're coming has that stuff. They may
Mhm.
not. They may not have as much as you think they have.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, this comes down to, having conversations with your other entities, your county and your state response levels, your neighboring jurisdictions, and saying, how can we support each other?
Mhm.
Because collaboration is going to be key on this. We're going to put together groups of people, teams of people, and another shameless plug here, in this April 2024 issue of Hazmat HQ magazine, our good friend Mike Blosky actually talks about collaboration and hazmat task force and strike teams, and how they were used during our hurricane events
Yeah.
here in Florida in 2022. And while it doesn't relate specifically to this incident, this incident does bring to light these types of disasters, whether it's a natural disaster, a man-made disaster, that are going to bring a lot of force and a lot of entities together. And how can we all work together to support the mission?
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Well, that's a good little segue there into something we don't deal with too much. Now let's segue right over into the magazine, shall we? So
All right.
As Derek mentioned, we have started. This is, I believe, our sixth issue. Hazmat HQ, digital magazine, totally for free. We have lots of contributors. Um, you can go to the website www.hazmathq.com, and you can look at all the articles, all the magazines. Check it out, and within the magazine, our website, or excuse me, emails. If you'd like to be a contributor, send us something. We'll take a look at it. Or if you have a question, please email us. The emails are within that magazine, and it's been pretty good. I mean, I think the last count I did, we have hit a total of 37 countries, if I'm not mistaken. 35 or 37, I forget. Either way, it's still a lot for
Hmm.
something that we just started 6 months ago. And it's getting rave reviews. We're really happy. It gets better and better every month because we just keep plugging away and people come up with great ideas and great articles. And it's just, something good to check out. So we're very proud of that. So
Yeah, and the goal of the magazine was, as we're going to these conferences and things, there's always such great information that's out there being shared that people have access to, and was like, how can we get these excellent instructors, these subject matter experts, other people out there that know something? How can we get their information in front of people's eyes, the people who can't
yeah.
make it to conferences? And so from the ground up, this was designed to be mobile friendly. Reading the magazine on your phone is super user friendly. The Facebook page, you can check it out there. Website, basically trying to cater to meeting everyone where they are. I mean, heck, you can even print articles from the website and leave them around the firehouse, and guys can pick them
What?
up off of the kitchen table and read
No
something. It's
way.
it's there's a lot of good information in there from people that we really respect, and
Yep,
I think are very
absolutely.
well respected in the hazmat community. And it's a publication for you, so give us feedback and we'll do everything we can to continue to provide you with as much content as we can for free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before we go, let's hit. We also have some websites for you guys to check out. Hazmat 101 Consultant Facebook and YouTube page. On the YouTube page, that's where you can see all the previous HazChat videos that we've done, as well as Spotlight. We also have the Hazmat Guys Roundtable, the first Tuesday of every month, 8 p.m. Eastern, live and in person. Myself, Bobby Salveson, Mike Monaco, and Jay Z do a live show. You can chime in, ask us questions, make fun of us wherever you want. And then you have the Hazmat Group 2, Hazmatter Group and Common Sense Group, all great resources to get information instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, and just good stuff all in all. So forth, and take the opportunity to, instead of reinvent the wheel, jump into a chat and ask somebody. I mean,
Mhm.
save yourself some aggravation. Trust me, Derek and I have beat our heads against the wall many a times and wish we had some of these tools back in the day. I said it right there, back in the day. Which I gotta say, just on a personal note, I just hit
You
today 5 years. Count them, count the little piggies. 5 years retired.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That just one of our classmates, Ray Cordero, he actually stayed the full pull. His party's tomorrow night, so sure there'll be many a hangover Sunday morning. But anyway, I digress. Derek, thank you as always, my friend, and thank you all for listening, tuning in, and stay safe out there.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Yes, hit the subscribe button. Be notified when the next one pops. Take care. See ya.